Okay. So touch plan and the communication of that touch plan that we're talking about today. And there are two ways, we know that trust is super, super, super imperative. And in fact, if there's anything that I learned from the conference and just putting it all together is that relationships are more important than the doing. And which is why, what I'm going to share with you is really, really clear on my heart right now. Because you can be working on your business and planning everything out, but if you don't get out there and establish the trust and the relationship, then it's all going to be for absolutely nothing. So I looked up and researched a couple months ago how you can earn somebody's trust. And in recent years, meaning within the last 10 years, there are psychologists who wrote oodles and oodles of like reports and stories and scientific information on this. And so there's two ways that is agreed upon in terms of how we can get people to trust us more quickly. And one is competence, okay? And the other is warmth. And that, is no big surprise. But, how do we show competence? We're going to get into, but you must show the competence first. Okay. You can't show the warmth first. And I didn't really agree with that at first when I read that, but then I started thinking about agents that had been on my team. And when they led with friendliness and they led with the warmth, sometimes they were taken advantage of by clients. And so I've come to agree with that. I don't always, agree with scientific facts or data, but I've come to agree with that because of what I, witnessed. And so you must show the competence first, and the warmth means making yourself what? It ends in ABLE because we know what that is. Relatable, like human, making yourself human. And you can do that by being silly. You can do that by, again, like finding some commonality between you and the person. But I want to talk about clear ways how to demonstrate your competence. And I can't say enough how imperative it is to demonstrate competence, whether you feel like it or not. And I like how one of the ladies said, you're not faking it till you make it. You are acting as if you're acting, and not like you're an actor, but you're putting yourself out there doing in spite of the fear, which is what we all really have to do. So asking the right questions and proving that you're listening by responding in kind. So when you go into an appointment, whether it be with a buyer or seller, it's not about you. It's not like we think, oh my gosh, I have to tell them how great I am. No, it's about you listening to them. And when you cater to their needs and what they're looking for by not really parroting back, but using and taking what they're telling you that they're looking for. And because of your expertise and experience, stating it in a different way so that they know you're listening. Showing up seemingly everywhere. So again, this is huge to showing competence when suddenly they're constantly seeing you everywhere. And it's not by chance. And that's when I say the layers. And so it's not always about, the conversion of your perfect client. Sometimes it's about just the exposure and with your strategy of what you're going to focus on, both online and then within your market, face-to-face. That is what I'm talking about that proves your competence. And that is why it's so important to know who your perfect client is, because those are the only people that you really want to make sure that they see and hear of you, seemingly everywhere. Proactively communicating things. So depending on who your perfect client is, you have a level of expertise and experience that you bring to every new appointment. All right. And so you want to be proactively thinking in their head what their questions might be, and then proactively communicating and answering their question before they even have time to answer it. So that the goal is by the time you're finished with your initial buyer presentation, or appointment or your listing appointment, and you say, gosh, we've covered a lot, and I just want to make sure, do you have any questions at all? And they're like, and they're looking at their list, as you know, many buyers and sellers have, and they're like, no, you've answered everything. That proves your competence, because you forecasted what they're going to ask, and you know how to get their questions answered. Looking and being confident. So kind of weird I say looking. I just meant like you wear, you know, an outfit that makes you feel good, you know, get your hair done, you know, whatever. Like you just present yourself as competent, and not like you are like your dog ripped your skirt. You know what I mean? You just have to present yourself as confident and be confident. And that's why I love, you know, the X, which somebody told me that's a yoga pose. I don't know if that was, I don't know who that was, but so that really helps, you know, opening and expanding yourself, as opposed to sitting in your car, you know, before you go in thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to get this? Okay. So next is validating them. When you're with a prospect, or even you're networking, right? And somebody finds out you're a real estate agent, a lot of times they'll ask questions. And some of them are related directly to real estate, and others are kind of like skirting around, like a general question. But it's never a bad choice to be like, you know, tell me more about what you mean by that. And I love the words "tell me more," because it proves to the other person that they're important and you're listening. And it actually proves your competence, because the person that talks least actually appears the most competent, believe it or not. A sincere focus on them. Mirroring their cadence and body language is really super important. As you know, I'm pretty intense personality. And when somebody is like this and like just hanging out, I think, oh my gosh, they're lazy. You know what I mean? Like I mean like if they're trying to sell me something, I want them to be up and join me in my body language of, you know, let's get to it. And so that's why it's really important that you get really good at reading people's body language and mirroring their cadence. If they talk slow, you force yourself to talk slow, because that will allow them to really relate to you, which is the warmth factor that goes along with competence. Demonstrate your passion. We've already talked about that, but this actually shows competence. And then effectively using storytelling, of course, we know the importance of the stories. So there's the touch plan that we're going to look at. And we're going to start with VIPs. And I know that we've skimmed over this, but I wanted to really hit it, because ladies, here's what I firmly believe from the bottom of my heart. If you were to do nothing else for the next 30 days, if you were to do nothing else for the next 30 days other than follow this touch plan with your VIPs and your past clients, and maybe even just 5 prospects, which we'll get to, all 3 of those, I firmly believe that's the best thing you can do for your business. And the reason for that is because C.S. Lewis and Jonathan Edwards and all these, you know, philosophers and, you know, people who are very revered. One was born in the 1700s, and C.S. Lewis died in 1963. But it speaks to the fact that companionship, inescapably communal. People are inescapably communal, which means they're inescapably of community. And in fact, C.S. Lewis says that the companionship is the greatest of worldly goods. Certainly, it's the chief happiness of life. And it was amazing because, and it's just so perfect, God timed this to be given right now, that when we were at the conference, what people said, they're saying, oh my gosh, there was no drama there. I felt loved and supported. And what happened? You know, friendships were made. You know, it was a trusted space. And so that is why this touch plan and the communication is so important. And I believe that, like I said, if you prioritize your VIPs and your perfect clients as the only past clients you focus on with this inaction of the touch plan that I recommend, you will have a pipeline that will actually double your business. That's what I firmly believe, because I believe that with a focus, things will really happen. So we know that the lowest cost per lead, it comes from people that we already know. Obviously, we're not going to pay for a lead, right? So, but they need to know how important they are to you. And what a lot of times agents are afraid of is, well, gosh, hey, what the heck am I going to say? Because up until probably 2 years ago, all we ever knew to do was call them, until Buffini came up with the pop by. And, and subsequently we've come up with, video text messages and all these other ways that we can communicate, VIP parties and such. So one way, I think the most important way to make your VIPs know how important they are, and your VIPs, just to clarify, would be people who are big in your community. You want people who you know and or who you want to know that are bigwigs in your community. And by that, I mean they're connected. And VIPs are also people who have referred you at least one client, because if they've referred you one, I don't care if they haven't referred you a client for 2 or 3 years. If they at one time referred you a client, they are a VIP. And really anybody you want to impress. So if you said, man, I want to be on the board of the hospital fundraising committee or whatnot, then who would you have to impress, make them a VIP? All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about with VIPs is a VIP party. And the beautiful thing about it is you are demonstrating both your competence and your warmth in that one event. Okay. And this is what, will make you, like I said, double your income. And of course, we know people don't buy goods or services. They buy relations, stories, and magic. So at VIP parties is where you create magic. So the who, what, where, and when of VIP parties. So the first thing is that you have to identify, based on your perfect client, ladies, what kind of party do you want to have? And as I shared with you, we would have one for adults only, and then we would have one for family. So, what would you like to have? And then choosing a theme. And to be honest, the more themed, the better. When we had a white party, the white party was all the women were talking about where you got a white dress, because we did it in January. So just choose any old theme. And again, you want to think about who your perfect client is, because you want it to be fun for them. So in other words, if you had, business women, they wouldn't want a sports VIP party, and so then, the where based on the theme, and you want to make sure that you choose something, again, that your perfect client would appreciate and would value. And then the when, we're going to get to the timeline. But again, if it's a family event, you'd want to have it, in the middle of the day, because you can't have it in the morning, because the kids might have soccer practice or gymnastics or something like that. So you really have to know your perfect client to know when would be the ideal time to actually hold the event. And then the what would be, the cost, and that can be alleviated or reduced by including your tribe, which Jackie did amazing when she explained yesterday how she has amazing results for her buyer seminar. And so that's really, pushing you to get your tribe behind you and you behind your tribe. So basically, the mistake that a lot of agents make is that they think they need, 6 months or more to plan a VIP party, when in actuality, it's better to just, one of my favorite sayings is be bright, be brief, be gone. And I feel that way with a VIP party. You don't want to plan it more than 90 days out in terms of, theme and getting to the nitty gritty, because then you're going to belabor it, right? And then you're going to have analysis paralysis. So that's why I say 90 days out is when you're going to identify the answers on the previous slide, and you're going to book the venue. And for example, if it's at a pumpkin patch, all you got to do is call the pumpkin patch owner and be like, hey, I'm going to, I'm inviting like 100 people, maybe 50 will show up. I just want to give you a heads up. So that wouldn't cost you anything. If you want to have, if you know of a neat movie that's coming out for kids, and you're, you know, like Lindsay, your perfect client are families, then you can say, hey, how much would it be if I bring in X number of people? Can I have, you know, our own showing of this particular movie that's coming out? And, you know, so you just have to really think about that. One time I had a chocolate party at a chocolate bar. And at this bar, they had, it was amazing. They didn't make me pay for anything in terms of the venue, okay, because it was a chocolate restaurant. And so all they served was chocolate wine, which I don't drink wine, but everybody said it was amazing. They had chocolate, like nonpareils and like chocolate, I don't drink candy, but whatever, all different kinds of chocolate candy. And then what else? They had a chocolate fountain and everything else, but they didn't charge me for the venue because they were closed on Monday nights. And so I knew that, and I said, hey, can you guys open on Monday just for my VIPs? And that was one of my most successful things. So in other words, when I say book venue, it doesn't always mean a cost, right? Because she just opened up the restaurant and she just made me pay for what we ate and drank.
Dan, can I say something quickly?
Of course.
Not to interrupt you or anything, but
of course.
I just want to back up what you said about taking too long to hold your event. My thought process last year was that I was going to use my butterfly event, and I mailed out cards showing the different stages of the butterfly progressing through its chrysalis and stuff. And then at the event, it was coming out.
Yeah.
But my attendance was down. And I have to say, I think it's because we were talking about it for so long, everybody just lost the whatever, you know. I don't know if it was that or because I had it in July, but I'm not going to do that this year. The cards will go out and the party will be 2 weeks, 3 weeks later.
Exactly. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. So then that's when you plan the gifts. And basically the gifts can be the dollar store. The gifts can be something that you make. I know that some of you are handy and crafty, or some of you have kids and you can actually, you know, make something. And with Pinterest, the beauty of Pinterest is that there's no shortage of ideas. If you go on Pinterest and type in VIP party favors or gifts, believe me, everything, you know, will come up. And, you know, if you want to pay for something, Etsy, just so you know, I'm sure you all know this, but when I bought a bunch of stuff on Etsy, like the lanyards for the conference, I got it like 40% off because I just told the lady, I said, I can't pay that. So you can always negotiate on Etsy. Okay. And then you want to figure out, you know, food and decorations. What do I say here? Success is in the details. Yes. So I think a lot of times it's the experience, right? And so that's what I should have written there, because what people will remember when they leave is how they felt, which is their experience. And if you want to make parents happy, make the kids happy. So even if I had an adult, like the kids were allowed to come to the chocolate party, but one time I did the white party and that was champagne, and I didn't want kids at my house. That was at my house. But I still gave them a little bag to take home, and I knew how many kids they had. And there they went home with little stuff, you know, from the dollar store for kids. So I always say it's about the experience, and that's what I mean by it's in the details, because these are people that you want to make feel amazing, okay? And the reason for ordering that stuff 90 days out is because some of these, even if you go on Etsy or even if you think you're going to make something, it always takes longer to do than you would imagine, okay? All right, so then 60 to 70 days out, I recommend that you turn the phone on you and you say, hey, I'm so excited. You're a VIP, however you talk. Okay. We're excited. I'm planning our VIP party. You're invited. So watch your email if you're going to do an evite, or watch your mail if you're going to send them an invitation, and you're kind of giving them the date so they can be like, oh, kind of intriguing them. Okay. And then 45 days out, you actually do send the evite and or the snail mail invitations. And by the way, don't be afraid to send the snail mail invitations to work, or don't be afraid to send them to their home. I wouldn't send them to both, but just send it to wherever you think the person would rather receive them. Okay. All right. So then 30 days out, my recommendation, what we used to do is we would pop by with, like with the chocolate, we went and bought chocolate on, it looks like a lollipop, but it's cake pop. Okay. So when we did the chocolate thing, one of the ladies I networked with made cake pops. So I said, hey, I need like 80 chocolate cake pops. And so that day after our team meeting, we went out and we delivered, you know, some to the home, some to the workplace, chocolate pops that were individually wrapped, and I paid for them, but I was trying to get them excited to come. Okay. And then 14 days out, we actually called our VIPs and said, hey, because some of them never RSVP'd, right? And some of them, most of them, we didn't even get on the phone. But surprisingly, because of our follow-up, we had a good attendance. And so I always recommend 2 weeks out calling them, or even, you know, a week out. The reason I have down here 14 days, ladies, is because you're going to have to give an RSVP number, you know, in your planning, even if it's at your house. So at the VIP party, you have to know your perfect client. So you know, or you need to find out what you can do to make the biggest impact on them. And so for me, I guess I love events, and I was gifted in that. And so like for the white party, man, I pretty much begged, borrowed, and stealed and borrowed from my friends. I put out a private Facebook message and said, hey, I need anything you have that's white. I need your Christmas white lights. I need this, I need that, I need that. And of course I bought some stuff, but ladies, I'm trying to share with you that it doesn't have to cost money. I had a whole, you know, clipboard of what stuff I borrowed, and my whole house was in white lights everywhere, and there were no lights on, and it was all white candles. And if somebody came in, they didn't have white shoes on, I said, take those shoes off, or it's a white party, I told you. And everything was freaking white. And of course I'm laughing because my husband was ticked at me because I went out and bought all this white glitter and stuff. So it took a while to get our house cleaned up, but I didn't care. It was like a magical place, right? And people talked about it, right? So people talked about it, and that's the point. You guys have to think about what would excite your perfect client to make them talk about it. So you want to maximize your time with them. So about 20 minutes into the party, 20, 25 minutes, you know, you gauge it. You want to have your time to show your competence. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. Because remember, that's why every other one was at my house, because even though my house wasn't big, it meant something to invite people to your house, right?
Yep.
So I reviewed the local market briefly and succinctly. And I thought, okay, what are my people? My people are business people. So I shared with them exactly the stats I always share with you, how we're so proud that our days on market is, you know, 50% less than the average agent, and that, you know, our clients leave the settlement table if they're a seller with, you know, an extra $8,000, and our buyers get a deal, whatever, you know what I mean? You just speak to 3 things and be very succinct about it. And then you review how you've given back to the community. So we gave back to the cancer center because I lost my mom to cancer and I lost my dad to heart. So we gave to the local heart, American Heart Association, and the local hospital. So we would have people there who were my friends networking, and I had big checks made up at Staples. And so similar to the signage, some of the signage you saw at the conference, I mean, it's $22 for something like, to get it printed at Staples on foam core, it's $22 for 14 by 16. Okay. So you can make a check and get people to, you know, I have my photographer there because she happens to be, you know, one of my best friends who was taking pictures at the conference. So again, you know, use your tribe to maximize and show and demonstrate your commitment to what matters to your perfect client. And then of course, throw 1 or 2 stories in how you helped a client through a tough circumstance. And so at one of them, I talked about how I met this single mom, and I used to be a single mom, and she used to rent, and how I got her in a house where the mortgage was, you know, $100 and some less a month than rent was. And So that always, again, you're showing your competence, ladies. Okay. And then the next part would be thanking anyone who gave you at least one referral. You don't have to qualify that for your first one. Okay. So just think about anybody who's ever given you a referral, whether they closed or not. That's the point. Okay. Because what you want to do is you want to give those people something demonstratively in front of the party so that other people want that next time. And you want to share with them when you have their attention like that, that you're going to be doing this once a year or twice a year. Okay. And then of course have the photographer there to snap pictures. I would recommend a step and repeat, and like a photo booth, and have like a camera sitting there so that you can tell them that, have a friend take a picture, and you'll get them all developed and email those out. And then what we would do is we would email them out in we would get them printed in 3x5. And then we had an oversized note, and then we would send it to them afterwards. So you're touching them a lot before the VIP party. You're wowing them at the VIP party, and you're staying in touch with them, continuing the amazingness of the experience after. All right. And then of course it's always a good idea to pull aside a couple after they've had a few drinks, if you're drinking, or if they're not, with their kids standing there, if that's like Lindsay's ideal client. Just tell me, I'm so glad that you're here. Would you mind helping me out? They're not going to say no. Okay. And it's a lot more easy for them to do that than give you a Zillow review sometimes. Right. And then again, a special gift as they're leaving. And like for the white party, I had everything wrapped in white paper with a white ribbon, and they're like, man, you've thought of everything, and I had the gifts by the door. All right. So that's VIP parties. Now, next is one-on-ones. Face-to-face is imperative, because when they see you in action, they take you more seriously. So it could be a breakfast, a lunch, a double date. If your ideal client are couples. I think, Maureen, you said that you and your husband went out to dinner with I think it was a client or two, or it could be an intimate dinner party at your home as opposed to a big VIP party. You could just have two couples or two people at your house or whatever. Pop by their workplace, sit together at a networking event's huge. If you, if it's not a networking event, like if you're in a book club, like Kate, you got that $1.8 million listing because of one of your clubs or associations. Make sure you sit next to them, and really solidify that relationship, like save a seat for them or whatever. Volunteer on a committee that they're on. Invite them to sit with you during a local parade, like the Easter Bunny parade. If somebody has kids, say, hey, I'm going to get front row seats. I'm going to go there early, and I'd love you to sit with me. If you read about them in the newspaper or on their Facebook, just stop by with something related to them. Birthday present, house anniversary present, whatever. And there's nothing as powerful as face-to-face, and that is for darn sure. So some of the conversations that you can have during these things, any of those that we just talked about, express how that you love hanging out with them. Because what did we just talk about? The C.S. Lewis said, and Jonathan Edwards and all these other people that are, I don't know if the word is lauded, but like they're held in high esteem in terms of their understanding of the human condition. It is that people want to belong. And so as long as it's sincere, then, tell them that you like hanging out with them. And then asking them what's new, and then listening as opposed to saying what's new and then your eyes are on to who's next. How many times have we felt that when you're at a networking event, somebody says what's new, and meanwhile, they're not even looking at you, they're looking at the next person, And then when you say, whatever happened with, try to recall something that he or she mentioned to you last time you saw them and bring that back up. Like, whatever happened with, I think last time we talked, you said whatever. And then they think that you don't remember their kids' names or their horse, or, I know that Kate, you're in, and Lindsay, you guys are out, like maybe they name their cows or chickens, whatever.
Oh, they do.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be impressive to me if you would know my dog's names or my grandkids' names or something like that. So that's what you're trying to establish. How's work going? Hey, I heard that. And that's not a rumor crap. We're not talking about that. You want to be the sharer of great news. Hey, I heard that we're getting a Macy's, or I heard that we're finally getting a Whole Foods or something. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And if you know that in your area you're having a beer fest, or you're having a spring fest, or the Easter Bunny, or Santa, or whatever, you say, hey, are you going to the such and such? Maybe we can sit together. Or I'll see you there. I hope to see you there. Another thing is that people like to be appreciated, and their opinion, especially if they're your VIP. So to say, hey, I'm thinking about every year I sponsor something, and like Kate, I think you sponsor the baseball or the golf thing. So you say, I was thinking about sponsoring the such and such. Do you think that would be, what do you think about that? And you might think, what the heck would I be asking my VIP about that for? But then ask them something else, because they feel appreciated when you ask them a question about what they think. Okay. And then again, did Susie start up soccer yet? How's it going? Hey, do you have vacation plans? I know you usually go to Jersey. Are you going to Jersey this year? Whatever. And then, and like what I say up here, which is all covered up on mine, let's see. Be the person who shares everything good, ladies. You never want to be the one who shares bad news in your market. Never. No, no, no. You don't want to get involved with any of that. There was a political scandal in my former market, and everybody was talking about it, and I would not talk about it. The mayor was up for fraud and everything, and I never talked about it. And some agents really lost clients because some clients loved that mayor, and it was a political nightmare. And I was so glad I kept my mouth shut. In last minutes together, when you're with that person, you want to, it's your turn to shine, okay? And leave them with a great impression. So you could say, hey, I'm so glad we got to sit down for a bit and catch up. We have to do this more often. Let me tell you, everybody always asks about the market. And I was looking up, I had an appointment in your neighborhood, and I wanted to let you know that your house value is up X%, which is far higher than the other markets. Or, you only want to share good news. If you don't have good news, heavens, don't talk about that. But it means something to talk to them about something good in where they live. So if it's their neighborhood, talk about that. If the market is, prices are going up, look at your stats. The other day I posted in our conversation, or I'm not sure if it was in there, I probably posted in our group what my broker posted about stats, and she always was on us about stats. Mm-hmm. And I think that really leads to your competence, and that would be a great point in this conversation at the end here. Or they think that you're in the know, right, as an agent. And that's why I always say you should friend a commercial agent, because if you know that a Macy's is coming, or Whole Foods, I don't know, I can't think of anything, or a new vet or something, commercial agents know what's coming in. And so share that, when you're with somebody. Like if they have a dog or they're into dogs, ask your commercial agent friend, hey, is there anything, fresh coming in, or, or if they work at the hospital, you say, hey, I don't know if you know this, but I have a special program for firefighters and nurses. And first responders, policemen, something like that. Whoops. Okay. So then snail mail is a third thing. Okay. And to be honest, I don't know about you, but my mail is all junk, and it pisses me off because I got to throw it away, put it in recycling. It just pisses me off. But when I get a little note, you know who I get notes from? Do y'all get notes from Bonnie Getz? I don't know if you were with her at the Enlisting Intensive. I'll tell you what. She does send out cards. I've never done send out cards, but she's made me a believer. And she's not coming after me for business because she's in California. But I'm glad she put me in there, because I'd say every 45 days, somehow she extracts a picture from my Facebook, and that's on the front of a card. And then she writes something cute in there. And I do keep those. And I am not a keeper of cards, ladies.
It almost sounds like stalking, though.
I know it was kind of weird the first time, but she's so sweet. And like, I'm sad that y'all don't know her. You might want to friend her. Bonny Goetz. She's pretty amazing. Anyway, and see how I feel about her because she takes that time. It's like really amazing. But anyway, I think that sending snail mail to the office is kind of neat too, depending what you put in there. And if you put a $5, you know, and you don't have to always put something in there, but if you do put it like a $5, like if you know they like coffee, Dunkin' Donuts card, or
Scratch wins.
what's that? Or a lottery ticket, yeah. And then they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, your realtor sent you that? My realtor doesn't send me stuff," you know, stuff like that. Whatever speaks to you that is your VIP. Okay, then I believe firmly in the power of DM. I direct messages, direct messages on Instagram, private messages on Facebook, and texts, okay? Because I believe that you got to mix up the way you touch. And that's why in the old days, 2 years or more, when the other gurus were saying, get on the phone, call them. What the hell am I saying to them? Well, how many times can I say hello? But nobody wants to just say, oh man, she's calling me again. So now that's why I love the voice or the texting, and you can use slide dial and leave them a voicemail. We all know about slide dial, right? And so you could say, hey, like for example, Kate, that $1.8 million lady, okay? And even though you got her business, you still want to wow her, right? You still want to be in touch with her. So if you know that next week you're going to see her at the club, you could say, hey, I'm going to bring you, I found something, Susie, that I know you would love, and I'm going to bring that to you, and I can't wait to see it, and send it as a text. Or if you have BombBomb, embed that sucker and get that email out. Or what I have written here is make sure you go by their house and notice something. New landscaping, new fence, they painted the front door, whatever, and comment on that, okay, in a video. But the better you know your VIPs, the easier it is to make that impact, right? Okay. So you can give a gift card with each referral, and I totally agree with that, whether the referral even connects with you or not, because it's like Pavlov's dogs. You're trying to teach these people how to, give you leads. Okay. So very simple. Thank you for referring me. Here's a little something to show. Or you can come up with a VIP program that scales it. And by scales, it's like Karen's so peers, or not peers, but competition or peers in her market. They have levels of VIP, which I think is a disaster. But because if you can be kicked off the higher tier. But anyway, maybe it's working for them. I don't know, but I wouldn't advise it. But I do like how they've systematized their VIP touches, okay? And so that everybody gets the same thing. And they've made it like a club. And the beautiful thing about that is, correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, is that they've formed a group on Facebook. And is that right, Karen? Do their VIPs have a group?
Yeah, I think so, because obviously I'm not on it, but I know what some of them are now doing is they're doing monthly giveaways. Actually, my old broker is doing it, which is hysterical. He did hire a marketing group, which is I'm glad that he finally is embracing.
Yes.
But what they're trying to do is they have criteria. So they'll say, like this post, share this post, because they want to get Facebook likes.
Yep.
And then, and then if you do that, they'll see who did it. And at the end, every month they give away something. But it's to get people to go on their business page, which is, it's a different way to do it, but it's kind of cool.
Right. And
that's what Pink Realty did too. And she said everybody who shared her Facebook or recommended her or gave her a referral, she would put their name in for a monthly draw for a cruise. And
who's this?
That Pink Realty lady.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And our office, I don't know if other offices do it, but probably 2-3 times a year, we can buy vacation certificates that are for 6 nights and 7 days, and you pay $200 a certificate.
Yes, and that
$200 a month for a draw is not a lot if you're getting, all it takes is one sale.
That's right. And that lady was there. I forget the name of her, but we had one of those ladies at the
something or other.
Yeah, at the conference. Trip Valet. And so if you go to She's Unstoppable Live Tribe, you can definitely connect with her. Her name is Raina, R-A-N-A.
Oh, for certificates for something?
Yeah, Renee Hall, R-A-N-A-H-A-L-L. She's in the She's Unstoppable Tribe. You should friend her. She was super nice. She's doing exactly what you just described, Kate.
Okay.
But I guess what I'm talking about, ladies, is slightly different than that. What I'm saying is that when you have your VIPs, now don't do this unless you're ready to do the work. And believe me, it's a lot of work. What I think I saw when I went to Karen's Piers was that if you are one of their VIPs, then you're in their Facebook group. And within that Facebook group, they either share information or discounts or whatever. And what I was thinking is, and what I have written here somewhere, is that, or in your workbook maybe, but where you go to the pizzeria, you go to the vet, you go to the shop, if you have women, go to the shop, like a local shop owner, not like a Macy's, and say, hey, I want to refer my clients to you, my VIPs. Would you give me a 10% coupon? And even if it's just for a limited time, whatever. And you know what? If they're entrepreneurs, they'll do it. And then you look like the hero. And all you've done is you started a conversation, So that's all I'm saying. And however you choose to execute it, whether one-on-one or try to scale it and get them all in a group so that you can make announcements to everybody and give them discounts. Like once a month, you'll give them like the discount of the month or whatever. But if you take great care of your VIPs, they will take care of you, and if we're honest with ourselves and admit, you have VIPs that you love, but we don't touch them enough. Right. And then they don't know if you're busy with real estate. And if you show yourself too busy, I remember at one point, I had it wrong, ladies. At one point I was showing on Facebook and everything how busy I was, right? And this one lady who used to give me a lot of business, she stopped and so I saw her networking event. I go, hey, what happened? She goes, Jan, you sound so busy. The last thing I want to do is bother you. I know you need family time. Whoa.
Yeah.
Trouble. Okay. So there's that fine line, like anything, that you got to really make sure people know that that you still want them to give you, referrals. Okay.
I've had people say that you don't need the help, so I gave it to so-and-so because they're new.
Yep. So you always have to make sure that you walk that fine line, and the way to do that is with the VIP parties, really, and the touches, right? So when you decide to call your VIP, because I do think we need to have a voice conversation, it should be to connect, not to ask them for anything, but to just say, hey, how's the house going? I was looking through my old sales and I see that you've been there for about 1.5 years. Is there anything that I can do for you? You're just, how's the family? It can be a 2-minute conversation, but never asking them for a referral. That's not the time to do it. That's not the way to do it. Okay. I believe in asking directly and telling them, don't misunderstand. But when you're on the phone and you're going to interrupt them from whatever they were doing because you didn't have an appointment, that's not the time to say, hey, I'm going to task you. No, absolutely not. So now we're moving on to past clients. That was all VIP. All right. So I know that all the gurus used to say before I got in the business, it's a numbers game. Add everybody into your, every past client you ever helped into your database, and I disagree 100%. I would only say to add those people who you actually enjoyed working with, because chances are they're going to be able to introduce you to people like them. And so life will be a lot easier when you're not dealing with somebody who's going to be your biggest nightmare. And we've all had nightmare clients. So your touches work together to touch your past client's heart. And that's the point. Remember how I said before, your VIP party and everything that you do for your VIPs? Well, the same thing is true for your past client. It's all about how they feel. how you make them feel when you reference them in a post, when you see them out. Anytime that you're touching them in any way, shape, or form, you want to touch their heart and emotion. And that will allow you to make the connection deeper. Because how many times has this happened to you, ladies? And I know it's happened to me many times. It pissed me off every time. They'd say, like I'd walk up to them at a network event and be like, hey, I'm in this contest. I always said this, ladies. I'm like, my broker's having a contest and, I like to win. Who do you know that I need to talk to? Because I need to get appointments, And I would say that a lot, like probably 2 or 3 times a year. And they'd be like, oh, shoot, my neighbor just put their house up, but I didn't even think through it. And I'm like, you know what? That's my fault. That's my fault, But then I'd leave and I'd be like, sucks, what, But that's my fault, because if I'm not deep enough in my relationship with them to have my name come off their lips, then it's my fault and nobody else's, right? So it's up to us to make sure that we're easily referable, okay? So house anniversaries, VIP parties, pop-bys, one-on-ones, everything similar to the VIP. The main topic of conversation always needs to be on them, never on you. That's why you want them at the VIP party, so that you can tout yourself there, and then indirectly on your posts and things of that sort. But you have to do the homework, getting to know what makes them tick and what makes them feel special. And that will, again, be a cheaper source than Zillow and all this other stuff. And all the work, mind you, which we're going to get to in prospects, okay, which is before we hang up, with the touch plan for that, you're doing all this work, guys. Ladies, we make this way too hard, way too hard. So anyway, we always have to think about what they think. What do they want? What do they need? So again, on the first time in January, you do the work, or have your title company or closing company do the work, is what I always did. Because they would print for me all the closing disclosures, or if it was cash, the HUD, so that they'd have it, for tax time. For those of us in a colder climate, I would remind them to winterize their spigots outside, so that they didn't have bursted pipes or busted pipes. Stuff like that. How great would it be to receive discounts? This is where I talked about the mom and pop shops and walking in there and saying, hey, I want to highlight, a local business owner to my VIPs and past clients. Would you be up for a 10% discount or something? Be the connector in your market in creative ways that matters to your perfect client. And that's why I'm hitting this point home, because the better you know your perfect client, the better you can win. And I'm convinced that the reason that me and my team soared to #1 and stayed there and got rid of the Dallas and the guy who had been #1 there for 5-10 years, was because I made my perfect clients me. And so I knew me, and I knew how to cater to them, and I knew how to get them to resonate with me. Now we're going to go into prospects, because prospects is way more involved. And you're going to get this deck, and this goes into the nitty-gritty: action 1, action 2, action 3. So the assumptions that you make about a prospect, the attitude you have toward them, and the voice inflection you use when contacting them makes all the difference between making 80 grand and 280 grand, okay? Because when I trained my team, and as I'm training my clients to see prospects as people that need you, and you're not salesy, right? Because these are prospects that maybe they were given to you, maybe you worked the duty or the floor, somehow, or somebody referred them to you. These are leads that were brought into you, and you can't see that as anything other than they need me. And it's my job to make sure they know that I'm here for them, and that I will close a great amount of them. Okay, that's what's going to make the difference. So we know the fortunes in the follow-up, your lifeline is in a full pipeline, and continual connecting gives you a healthy business, okay? So when we acknowledge that any lead is a good lead, any lead, I don't care. And let me tell you why, ladies. Because as I shared with you, I had an upper echelon client. I didn't want to deal with, people who weren't upper echelon. I'm going to say it like that. So, but I kept my nose clean, and I would give referrals out, even off my team, when it was somebody that wanted to buy a house for under 150,000, because nobody on my team wanted to deal with that. And yet I would get 25%. Okay. So in other words, if it's a lead that I didn't want to deal with, then I would give it to somebody else, and I would get 25% and didn't have to deal with somebody who wasn't my perfect client. Okay. So that's why any lead is a good lead. Okay. Because if somebody has to go through credit repair, I had the agent or the lender who would help them through that. But I would get paid at the end. Okay. Next, the prospect needs me. What the hang up is of most agents, be it man or woman, mostly women though, is that, oh, I don't want to be salesy. We don't want to offend. No, when I believe firmly that when we feel that way, then our confidence needs to be boosted, and we need to really understand that that prospect needs me. Okay. And because they need me, it's up to me to be diligent in following up, because it's up to me whether they're going to choose me. If they don't choose you, yes, sometimes it's their own misperception or misconception of who you are and who you put yourself out there, how they perceive you, whether it's fact or fiction. But I believe in accepting full responsibility, and if it's to be, it's up to me. So it may take 10 or more attempts for me to hear back from them, and that's okay. I'm going to keep following up with them. When you do that, when you acknowledge these things, you're going to double plus your conversion rate. So let's say your conversion, okay, so what is a conversion rate? If I receive 10 leads, right now I might be converting 1 to my client, okay? So what's 1 divided by 10? Is that 10%? I'm not good with math. Is that, no, hold on, I'm like an idiot. 1 divided by 10 equals, yeah, 10%. Well, I'm convinced if you follow this, then you're going to double that. And now all of a sudden, at least you're going to be closing 20%. So can you imagine how much your business will be impacted if you can go ahead and double your conversion rate? And then your business will be exponentially, because every time you keep doing this with more and more diligence and consistency, then soon you're going to be closing and converting, 30%, 40%, whatever. So here's a different perspective. I think most of us, or all of us, are mothers. Think of your prospect, any prospect, as a child, okay? So will you give up on them the first time you're trying to teach them something? Well, of course not, okay? So you just keep going back, and you keep teaching them and keep nurturing them and loving on them, right? So same thing with your client. Why do we think? So somebody goes online, if you do a Zillow, or somebody told their friend who told you that they're thinking about moving, okay? So we reach out once or twice, and then either we forget because we're too busy doing God knows what, or we think, oh, I don't want to be salesy. Maybe they changed their mind. And we actually talk ourselves out of a deal, okay? Because we put ourselves out because we don't follow up, all right? So this is how you have to see your clients, in that, well, I'm not giving up till they tell me to get lost. And if they tell me to get lost, it's going to be a dialogue or communication from them to you. Nobody else is going to have to know, so don't tell anybody, okay? So are you up for the challenge to do whatever it takes to reach them? And do you know that they need you, okay? And really, are you willing to try something new and follow the touch plan without apology, in spite of your fear, okay? Because we can say we're too busy, but my question then would be, too busy doing what? And what I have learned in all my business years, even when I was in corporate, when you focus, okay, I worked for good VPs and bad VPs. The bad VPs were all over the place. The good VPs kept you focused, right? And so for you in your business, I want to keep you very focused on your perfect client. I want to keep you focused on mining what you already have, which are your VIPs and your perfect clients, okay? And these prospects, in spite of a fear and excuse. And I appreciate and respect, Lindsay, how you went ahead and hired this company to go back to every lead you've ever gotten to call, because that's like your own ISA. And so, your own inside sales associate, who really is an appointment setter, because unless they're licensed, they can't talk intelligently about real estate like you can. But there's no excuse and there's no fear. So are you eager to follow your touch plan so that you can either win or lose early? I learned this in corporate many, many years ago, that I would rather lose early and move on than keep trying, and then, you know, I'm never going to lose. I mean, I'm never going to win. And what I mean by that is, if you have a prospect that you're trying to get with, and then you want to take them to the point of, let's say, a buyer, you want to take them to your lender to see if they're approved, so that you don't put the cart before the horse and suddenly start showing them houses that they're not approved for. So that's what I'm talking about. Let me see what this says, chat. Somebody has to leave for an appointment, but it doesn't say who.
Who else was on? There wasn't anyone else.
Maureen had to leave. Okay.
Oh,
Okay. So you must identify exactly what you will do, and we're going to get to that. We're going to do the next 5 actions to get to this. Okay. So you must identify exactly what you will do and when for the prospects. Okay. Then you have to put that in a checklist that you look at every day for your CRM. Okay. A CRM is really customer relationship management. It could be your Outlook, it could be your calendar, it could be a freaking piece of paper. I used to use a 1 through 31 accordion file. And so if I talk to somebody today, it's the 17th, I'm going to put that same piece of paper in the 18th. When I come in, I'd pull out the 18th. And believe me, the method doesn't matter. It's what you're going to follow. And make time on your calendar each day to execute no matter what. Now, when I say each day, if you do this 3 days a week, if you start with 2 days a week, how much more will this positively affect your business? So please don't be like freaked out. I got to do this 5 days a week. Look, baby steps are good. Okay. The main point is that when you identify when you're going to do it. So if you say, all right, Jan, I'm going to do it Tuesdays and Thursdays, then gosh darn, don't put your head on the pillow till you do it. Okay. Because that's the only way that you're going to see a change. Okay. So you want to identify your touch plan, and listen, as I have in here, you know, you all have the touch plan. It's in the workbook, and it's also in this deck. That's what my team did. Okay. You guys can do whatever you want. Okay. Because you know, your perfect client isn't my perfect client. Right. So what it is identifying your touch plan that you feel comfortable with, and making a system, meaning when I do this, or I have somebody else do it, and then you actually execute. Okay. So now let's get to the nitty gritty of this. So first action, okay, let's say you're going to make one of these for a buyer prospect. Okay. So the first thing is to create a 30-second video with you being friendly and not mentioning anyone's name. Why? Because this is going to be your generic hello text, or you can embed it in an email if you have BombBomb, or just put a link, put it on Vimeo if you have a Vimeo account, and put that in an email, however you want to do it. For me, I think a text is appreciated by my perfect client. I don't know what would be appreciated by your perfect client. That's up to you to figure out. You know, hi, I'm such and such with the such and such team at, or whatever. Hope you're doing great. I understand you're considering a move to Winchester, and I'd love to help you. I thought you'd appreciate a quick video, and I would always smile my suggestion and wave, because of course I didn't do this when I was working. And then you can either call or text me here at this number that I'm texting you on, or you can email me at such and such. I can't wait to hear from you. Be bright, be brief, be gone. Okay. Okay. Action 2. And this is like setting yourself up to be able to execute what your touch plan is. See what I'm doing here? So my recommendation is on day 2 that you begin sending them your 3 or 5 day series. Okay, that positions you as an expert. Okay, and separates you from the pack. So you'll proactively create a 3-part buyer series of your choice. It could be Buyer's Guide for Manhattan, or, you know, Buying Made Easy, or 3 steps to buying a condo in, you know, what, I don't know. I was just thinking Manhattan. Okay. Whatever your perfect clients, you know, want, and no one knows your perfect client like you do. You might even go through your old emails, or if you save texts, and then put together, you know, what are people asking? When you first have a conversation with a buyer, what are they constantly asking? And then do something like that. So then I just have, hi there, welcome to my buyer series, and, you know, called such and such. Each day, starting today, you're going to receive a short video. In this series, I'm providing you daily tips because I know how exciting and scary it is to think about, buying a home and blah, 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 whatever. Today's tip is X, and what I mean by that is blah, 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 and then you repeat it again, whatever. Okay. So action 3 is to record days 2 video, record days 3 video, and keep it. Remember, when you do a video on your phone, mark it as a favorite. If you have, I don't know how to help you with a Samsung, but if you have this kind of phone, you bring up the video, at the bottom is a little heart, you click it, and that'll be easily found in your favorites. I would also recommend getting a Vimeo account. It doesn't cost anything. And then you can use that link in an email because you want to duplicate, you want to repurpose. Okay, so you're going to repurpose these things. You can also put this on YouTube, to get a YouTube channel if you want. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just giving you examples of how you can repurpose. You can also put this on your Facebook, on your Insta story. You can do a ton of things. And by the way, if you put this on your Insta story, then from there, remember, we know how to make it a little bubble or a highlight on your Instagram. And now you have some content there that your perfect client would enjoy. So from doing this, this one simple 3-day video, or even the introductory video, all 4 of those can be put on your Insta story. And now you have a highlight, and you are growing your business. You are looking competent, and you are not going to have to keep recreating the wheel every time. Okay. Ladies, don't make more of this than it is. Do not overthink it. No analysis paralysis. You sit down one day, you write the content. Next day, you say, I'm going to get up. I'm going to worry about my hair and my makeup. I'm going to actually look good. I'm going to film them. Then you move on to the next step. Okay. Next step is figuring out what you're going to say with the when you make phone calls, okay? Because we've done emails, we've done texts, and now you're going to figure out what you're going to say when you call somebody, okay? So then you write the script for that. Why are you doing this? Because you might that might be where you grow a team. Because if you are saying you don't have time to execute a touch plan, then it's time to hire somebody. Whether it's an agent, or whether it's an ISA, or whether it's an assistant who has a good voice and is organized. But we're not going to be successful with over 6 figures without help. You just can't do it. I mean, or you're going to be killing yourself working all the time, and then you're going to be in for a burnout. If for those of you who were at the event, at the conference, in the VIP breakfast, Karen Cooper, I brought up that she almost had a nervous breakdown, and it's fine. She wouldn't be mad at me saying this. She busted her butt, and she practically killed herself. Okay. And so that's why she got completely out of the business for 2 years, came back as a broker and thought that would be easier. And of course that wasn't easier. And so now she has a powerhouse team of 30 agents, and she knows how to get help when she needs it. So the next step after you do that foundational stuff in the first 5 steps is to write out what your actual process is going to be. So for example, day 1, a buyer lead comes in. All right. So when the buyer lead comes in, how is it getting to you? Does it automatically get texted to you? When I was on Zillow, sometimes my phone would ring and there it would be, or do you have an appointment setter or an ISA or whatever you want to call her? In what time frame will the intro video go out? Will it go out via email or text? And then how long after that will the converse go? Like if you do a text first, then how long are you going to wait till the email goes out? How long will you wait to call them? And I told you mine was, under 10 minutes. And then how long after the initial attempt to reach the prospect will you text again? Remember, in my touch plan, I recommend twice a day. Of course, unless the deal comes in, the prospect comes in after 4 or 5, that would be ridiculous. It'd be extremely ridiculous to do it twice. But if it's before 4, you do it initially, and then I would do it, before bed, 8, 9 o'clock. But anyway, these are the things that you have to identify based on your brand, okay, and what you feel comfortable with, and your structure and your boundaries, right, and what your perfect client wants or would appreciate. So then day 2, after the lead came in, what time will the prospect be texted or emailed with your day 1 of your 3-part series? And are you going to get that out via email first or via text first, right? This is what you have to think about, because you have to processize or systematize how you're going to follow up. Because if you don't systematize it, A, it won't happen, and B, you'll be overwhelmed and be like, I'm out, I'm checked out. How long after number one is done above will you send the other way, right? So if you decide to text the day one video in your series out, then when are you going to email it? And then when will you attempt to call, etc. And then my question to you ladies is, why don't you do this now? Why don't you do this now? Why don't you personally follow a touch plan? Doesn't have to be mine. But I hope that you see, because I felt when I wrote this a couple months ago, I felt like I was getting pushback from you ladies, some of you. And maybe I'm wrong, but I got a feeling that you thought it was quite aggressive. And upon first initial looking at it, it does look aggressive. But when you have the right mindset looking at it, then you can understand that you want to make the biggest impact, right? It's not always about money. It's sometimes about your impact of your perfect client. And it's also, you're in business, so it's okay to want to make a living, okay? But why don't you do this right now? And that's really an answer that I don't want you to answer to me. I want you to really think about that for yourself. And then picture what your life and business would be like if you were to have a touch plan process done. It would increase your confidence. It would allow you to get more done in the same amount of time, because when you systematize something and you pull in somebody to help you. I have a one-on-one client who gets her daughter to do it, to send the emails. Okay. So her daughter signs into her Gmail and sends emails twice a day. I mean, the agent doesn't have to think about it. Her daughter's doing it. Okay. From a remote location, because she trusts her daughter to sign in as her own Gmail, of course. If you don't trust somebody on your email, then you could set up an email like Karen Morabito, the extra at gmail.com. Well, fine. Like, that person's going to be emailing from that email, right? How many clients would you convert each month? Because if right now you're converting 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20, then let's just say you do twice that much. I mean, how much would that impact you in your income? How many prospects in the last year told you they're working with someone else? And doesn't that piss you off? And that question is with respect to everybody, like a past client or a prospect who, I mean, this is part of the reason that I came up with this touch plan, ladies, is because I was pissed when one of my amazing clients chose somebody else to list their house, even though I helped them buy it. And it was my fault. At first I was mad at them, and I'm like, well, that's stupid. Okay, it was my fault. And was it because you didn't follow up enough that you heard that? Because that was my problem. So as we finish, 0 excuses. Okay, I have a 0 tolerance policy for excuses, right? Anything that's screwed up at the conference, I accept full responsibility for. Anything that like I said, when we were together in Sarasota, when there was some weirdness going on, I fully felt bad and I accepted full responsibility for that. It just allows you to really be in control of your business, right? You're a professional, you're exceptional, all right? There are 0 excuses not to get your touch plan or follow-up system down. And this is the month we're gonna do it, okay? Because I want you to finish 2019 strong. So, by the way, I'm gonna say this again, if you don't have time for this, then it's time to build your team. Whether it is hiring an ISA like Lindsay did, or which is, an exterior person that you really don't have as much control over as I know that I would want to have more control. But it's really a matter of how are you going to build your team? Okay. So not next month, but the month after, in month 7, our mentoring will be on team building. And it doesn't always have to mean an agent. It doesn't have to mean anything, because guess what? You are you. And so if you want to have a one-on-one, 20-minute session on how you think you need to build your team, we can do that, because there's no cookie cutter way. And that's why Judy and I chose each of those people on the Powerhouse panel. They were all so different. I don't know if you noticed. There were a good mix of individual and team. And the reason we wanted that way is because we wanted y'all to see, and everybody in the audience to see, that there is no one cookie cutter way. And number 1, number 2, weren't all their personalities different? I mean, they weren't all the same, right? Corinne Fails is like as outgoing as the day is long, and so is Kara Pierce. But then there's Stephanie Vitaco, who is, you know, is a multi-million-dollar earner, and she's as humble and contrite and quiet as possible, and you really have to pull a conversation out of her. Okay, so that's the beautiful thing. You don't have to be outgoing either to be successful.